Thank you so much, Brian. I'm guessing you guys can hear me okay. Everybody can hear me? All right, good. Oh my gosh, it's horrible when you're speaking for yourself. And thank you so much for that great introduction. And one of the things that I want to be able to add as well is I'm a paramedic. I've been a paramedic since the Reagan administration, and I love the opportunity to come and speak about leadership, EMS, whatever that topics are going to be. And I apologize that I can't be there with you in person. I actually had tickets to go see the Ohio State Buckeyes beat the Thundering Herd on Saturday. But I did get blessed with another round of COVID. So now I get to do this from the safety of my own office in St. Louis, Missouri. So ladies and gentlemen, when we think about self-mastery, this really comes out for developing the best version of who you are as people. When we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he gives us that pyramid, right? And that pyramid is we need to make sure that we're safe. We need to make sure that we have food. And then we get to that top of that peak, which is really self-actualization. And what does self-actualization mean? It actually is all about becoming the best version of yourself. And I've been asking the question for about a year now of when do we know that we get to self-actualization? When do we get to the pinnacle? When do we get to the point of Maslow's hierarchy to say we are the best that we can be? And, I'm coming to the standpoint that maybe we never get there. And if we do it right, we should never get there. But one of the things that we should always start to look at, we should always start to feel is that journey has to continue. We do everything that we can to ensure that we develop, right? What did it take for you to get the job that you're in right now? Was it school? Was it study? Was it, working hard to get there 60 hours a week? And then when we get that job, why do we stop? And why aren't we continuing that growth? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about self-mastery. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to prep you right now. The last few slides of this presentation, if you follow it, I will promise you that you will see a change in your performance. You will see a change in your personal and professional life. I'm giving you a promise. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. I love this lecture and I can't wait to do it. When we think about self-mastery, it's defined as being highly skilled. It's defined as being proficient. It's defined as creating the best opportunity in more than one area of your life where you can say, I am the best that I can be. Self-mastery is all about taking yourself to the highest level. More importantly, it's taking yourself to the highest level and not being afraid to get to the highest level. We're going to talk about some of those barriers to self-mastery. To be a master of your own self, you have to be able to fully understand who you are and discover whether it's by yourself. And that's one of the great things about being a leadership coach is I can take people where they don't feel comfortable going. And we have to be able to push people outside their comfort zone to say, me, I don't think I can do that. Really? Now automatically you're causing yourself some detriment because you're giving yourself those negative thoughts. So what we're going to do today is we're really going to focus on this self-mastery. And what is it? Self-mastery is all about taking control of your own life. One of the things that I want you to think about is how many people are comfortable with where they are today? How many people are comfortable with where your career is, with where your life is? I got to tell you, I talk to a lot of people who will say to me, I just can't believe, is this my life? It's not where I thought I would be at 40 years old. It's not where I thought I would be at 45 years old. And I really don't know how to get out of this rut. And it's the same thing. And it's the ho hum. And it's the humdrum. And it's the habit of, doing the same thing. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day and we were joking about my life is so, in a habit That I dry the same body part first every time I get out of the shower. I drive the same route to the office. I eat at the same time every day. And one of the things that we start to think about is we get into these ruts, and we really have to now be able to think about how we get on the path of self-mastery, and it begins with your self-awareness. I'm going to bring up a self-awareness slide in a minute. And one of the things that we're going to focus on is that I believe, as a leadership specialist, that self-awareness is the most important leadership characteristic. Because if you don't know who you are, and you don't know why you react, and you don't know why you do the things that you do, we are never going to get over that hump. So being self-aware, it allows us to act with intention, and it gives us that automatic reaction sometimes that we can control. And sometimes we'll say that, well, why did we do that? Why did we say that? Or sometimes if you're in a relationship, people will say to you, I thought you were never going to say that to me again. Well, I didn't even know I said it, right? So there's a lot of things that we need to be able to think about. But when it comes to self-mastery, it really is about you being able to act with intention rather than with those automatic responses that we can control. All right. One of the things that we need to be able to think about is we are wired to think in pictures. And we need to be able to think about why we do and why we react the way that we do. We need to be able to create the happier life that we want. I believe that opportunities are out there, and we need to be able to create our own opportunities for success. If you are looking for the next big thing in the same everyday habits, you are not going to find it. Because if it was there, you would have already found it. There's a great quote by Les Brown who will say, to get something you've never gotten, you've got to do something you've never done. Again, this is now the opportunity to get outside of your comfort zone. We need to be able to ensure that we're fighting the negative self-talk, that we're becoming friends with our emotions. We have to remember that emotions will make us vulnerable. And I am going to give you a piece of advice that's going to open the door on your emotions. And I'll give it to you right now. I'm going to tell you right now. No one can make you feel anything you choose not to feel. I want that to sit with you for a minute. And what does that mean? So one of the things that we need to be able to think about as well is, how do we enrich ourselves? But more importantly, how do we now enrich the people who are around us? And I think that that's going to be important too. One of the things that I do every single day when I wake up is I make the determination, who will I add value to today? It's all about Columbus, Ohio today. It's all about adding value to you in that room to ensure that I give you the best that I've got to help you feel like there's an opportunity and there's a path forward. But what you have to be able to think about as well is, how do you enrich you? How do you grow you? How do you ensure that those around you feel good about themselves when you're around? And that's a driving force that we need to be able to look at. When we act purely on emotion, this really puts us at a point where we are at a detriment. In my book, Ultimate Leadership, 10 Rules for Success, this was the first book I wrote in the Ultimate Leadership Development series. And I got to tell you, man, back in the old days, I was a horrible leader. I tried to be good, but I was horrible. I would yell, and I would point my fingers, and I would swear, and I was a bully, and I was only worried about my own career. And I had to come up with a list of rules that would allow me to be a better leader. Well, rule number one is never allow your emotions to dictate your actions. How do you think I learned that rule? Because I was a time bomb. I was a ticking time bomb, that was 2,000 pounds of TNT with a 2-inch fuse. And I had to be able to now act differently. A lot of people will say to me, Chris, you're a great leader, and you must have always been a great leader. And I have to laugh. You see me now. But if you would have saw me then, it would not have been pretty, and you would not have wanted to follow me. So you need to be able to learn to understand and master your feelings, which I got to tell you is easier said than done. All right? We're continuing along the path of what is self-mastery, and we're getting to a point next where I need to start to share with you the ways to develop your self-mastery. But that negative self-talk that's in your head, right? I'm going to start my own business. No, you're not. I want to get the next big job in my career. No, you don't. I'm never going to be rich. I'm never going to be successful. I'm not a good parent. I'm not a good spouse. I'm not a good boyfriend, girlfriend. These are those negative self-talk that we hear in our head, and I'm going to give you the answer how to quiet those things as we get to the end of this presentation. One of the things that I want you to be able to think about is that we have to be able to be the best defense for ourselves. When we think negative thoughts, our emotions become vulnerable. And I want you to think about, when is the last time you had a negative thought? And maybe it was today. Maybe it was when you were driving to work and there was traffic, or you spilled coffee on your pants, or whatever it was. When was the last time you had a negative thought? How did it make you feel? How did it change your mood? How did it give you the opportunity to take your day and now set it up for disaster? We have to remember that we are in control of our own emotions. With self-mastery, you will begin to control these impulses and make rational decisions rather than purely upon emotion. And I keep going back there. I keep bringing this up. But it's really important that you understand the philosophy that you control your emotions. You will learn how to understand and master your feelings. You will drive happiness in your career. You will drive happiness in your personal life, and you will see a change. And I promise you that, ladies and gentlemen. When we think about how to develop self-mastery, and I guess it would be helpful if the slides move, and I just love this slides. It's just so much color. We think about how to develop self-mastery. It's an ongoing process. Remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when do we get to self-actualization? The best version of ourselves. And I am going to counter that if you do it correctly, you should never become the best version of yourself, because you're constantly on the journey to be better. You're constantly on the journey to polish your skills. You're constantly on the journey to polish your abilities. You are constantly on the journey to develop the knowledge that you need to have to bring yourself to the next level of where you want to be in your career. And you need to be able to make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do this. Look, ladies and gentlemen, if you're like me, I'm older in my career. I'm 59 years old. I'm thinking about retirement in a few years. All my money, all my extra money is going into my retirement account so I can invest in my future, so I don't have to work as hard as I work now, and I can kick back a little bit. I can enjoy the beach. I can buy I could buy whatever. I could sit there and enjoy the golden years of my life. But investing in ourselves, is that any less than what we do for investing in our future? And we have to remember that we're the best asset we have. We're the best way for us to become successful. And if we're not going to invest in ourselves to do that, who is going to do it for us? No one. And we have to be able to take that commitment, and we have to be able to move that forward. But Chris, how do we do that? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to get outside the fear of growth. Now, I want to start this by asking you this question. If there was one thing that you could do that you knew you would be successful and you wouldn't fail at it, what would it be? And if you have something, I would like you to write it down, because I think that that's going to be important. If you knew you wouldn't fail, what would it be? Well, I'm going to pause right there and tell you that you might as well try it, because you will fail at it. Name the one thing you ever did the first time that you did great. And usually you have to be able to change your process. You have to be able to change your practice before you get to a point of being great. And you know what? You want to do that. I've been a paramedic since 1986. The way that I start an IV today is not the way I started an IV in 1986. The way that I intubate a patient today is not the way I intubated a patient in 1986. I have grown in my knowledge. I have grown in my skill. I have grown in my ability. I have failed countless times. We've been sold this bill of goods that if we fail, ooh, Halloween's coming, so I'm making the Halloween noise. Ooh, you failed, you made a mistake, you're a horrible person, right? Failure is what you do in life. They needed to be able to teach us that we are going to fail, that we are going to make mistakes. In that same book, Ultimate Leadership, 10 Rules for Success, rule number 7, experience comes from mistakes. Mistakes come from lack of experience. So we're going to make those mistakes. Now, with that said, one of the things that we have to be able to do is get outside our comfort zone. This is where we sit. Our comfort zone is that behavioral state in which a person operates in an anti-anxiety neutral condition. But you know what? Our next slide, I really, really like it. I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to bring it right up here. Is that we have a comfort zone that we feel safe. But all learning happens outside the comfort zone. Remember I said earlier today that if you are looking for the next big thing in the same everyday habits, you are not going to find it. To get something you've never gotten, you've got to do something you've never done. Tony Robbins will tell us that all growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And you have to be able to venture outside. Now, this is one of those processes, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to continually do, right? Remember, we talked about self-actualization. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, now we get into the fear zone. And the fear zone is affected by others' opinion. You are never going to be able to start your own business. What, are you crazy? You are never going to be able to become a vice president of a Fortune 500 company. Are you crazy? Well, you know what? There are people that are doing it. And how can they do it? We need to be able to stop the excuses. We need to be able to find our self-confidence, and we need to be able to open that door to our comfort zone and step into the fear zone and learn something new. When we think about this from a knowledge standpoint, is there something that you want to learn? I try to teach myself something sporadically. And when I say that, it's kind of hard. So last thing that I tried to teach myself was, have you ever seen those guys in the casino that they have the chips in their hand and they'll flip the chips one over another? I spent 3 months when I was watching the news, so I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch the news. I watch a couple shows, like maybe, 30 minutes, an hour a day. And when I was sitting by the TV, I would practice learning how to flip those chips. And it took me about 3 months to figure it out to where I was doing it without thinking about it. Now I'm trying to teach myself, when I have some time, the American Sign Language. And it's a little bit harder. But when is the last time you just taught yourself something new? And is there something new that you want to learn? This is something that we need to be able to do that. Once we leave the fear zone, we now enter the learning zone. And this is where you now start to polish what you're doing. You start to polish things a little bit differently. And then finally, you get out to the growth zone. And this is where you say, I'm going to set a new vision. I'm going to set new goals. I'm going to set new plans to reach the goals. And this is where you start to live the dream of that new comfort zone. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I am fighting COVID, so if I have to cough or whatever, please forgive me. So one of the things that you need to be able to think about now is, after you get into the growth zone, you see that the arrow continues, and that's because you enter a new comfort zone. And then you need to be able to start this process all over again. Let me ask you this question. When is the last time you felt like you've grown in your personal life, in your professional life, with a skill, with an ability, with some knowledge? I want to challenge you now. This is almost October. In between now and the end of the year, pick something that you want to try to teach yourself. Pick something that you want to try to learn. Or set a goal for 2025 that will allow you to say, in this period of time, and remember to give it a date, because a goal with a deadline, a goal without a deadline is just a dream. You have to be able to make sure that you're going to get there, that you want to give yourself that gift of learning, that gift of developing. And I think that's going to be really important. Now, one of the things that you need to be able to think about as well is there is a big challenge between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. There are people that are happy to be into that fixed mindset. And when we think about this from a standpoint of how we grow, our mind works on expanding it from a positive psychology standpoint. What does that mean, Chris? A positive psychology standpoint. We have to be able to ensure that we are continually challenging our mind that we can continue to grow. However, there are people that sit into the fixed mindset because they don't have the comfort of getting outside that, that comfort zone. They have a challenge with self-confidence. They have a challenge with self-esteem. They have failure in their life. It makes them feel inadequate. They're bound to criticism that is a fatal blow, which again now grows that challenge with self-esteem and self-confidence. You have to be able now to put yourself in a position that you are not going to know everything the best that you can when you first start. And you have to be able to get outside that fixed mindset to say, well, this is my life. This is where I am. This is what it's about. And you have to be able now to focus on the ability to put yourself in a position to say, I am going to be better. When failure happens, this reveals the inadequacy in your life. And criticism, whether it's self-criticism or whether it's criticism from other people. And let me tell you what, we get criticized by people. And you know what? We want to be criticized by people. I want to know what people think. Why? Does it change who I am as a person? Maybe. I will listen to it. Sometimes I'll give it credence. Sometimes I'll flick it away, like a grain of salt. But what we do with that is most times is we diminish our own self-esteem because the way that people think about us. And you know what? What people think about me is not something that I put a lot of weight in. Again, I'll listen to it depending on who's saying it. I'll break it down and I'll use some self-reflection. And there were some times that those things are true. I could be a little abrasive. Yeah, I could be a little bit brutally honest with people. And sometimes you have to be able to look at people that are around you to say, maybe that's not the way I should have talked to that person. All right. But anyway, we are the worst enemy when it comes to revealing our inadequacies and criticizing ourselves. A lot of times, ladies and gentlemen, when we criticize ourselves, we don't stop and it's relentless. What we need to do is we need to be able to change the paradigm and we need to be able to get into a growth mindset. Are you the person you are today that you were when you were 20? I'm going to say I'm not. And Muhammad Ali has a great quote that if you're the same person at 50 that you were at 25, you just wasted 25 years. Growth, you have to be able to recognize it to ensure that you are getting to your next level. But this happens with a vision as well. What is your next level of success? What is your next level of professionalism in your personal life? What is your personal vision statement say to you? We are wired to think in pictures, and in the absence of a vision, how do we know where we are going to be, or how do we know when we're going to get to where we want to be? I have a personal vision statement. In my personal vision statement, it has 3 components, and I'm not going to bore you with what it is and give you all the words. But 1, I want to be able to give a lecture to over 10,000 people with my friends and family in the audience. 2, I want to be recognized for my work in the transition of EMS to the community paramedicine model of care. And 3, I want to be able to, since I don't have any hair, I want to be able to find the cure for baldness. And that one's a little bit more tricky. I'm having a little bit more trouble doing that. Now, actually, the 3rd component of my vision is I want to be known as a leadership specialist on 4 continents. And I'm known on 3 continents right now to where I have a good base. So does anybody know anybody in Antarctica, by the way? I mean, because I could really use that connection if we can figure that out. But one of the things that we need to be able to look at is anytime in a growth mindset, anytime that we have setbacks, it really is seen as an opportunity. You have to remember, in failure, there's opportunity. In opportunities, there are failure. And we have to be able to think about where that growth is. Growth mindset goes hand in hand with leaving your comfort zone. I can't stress this to you enough. You have to be able to challenge yourself. You have to be able to invest in yourself and get outside that comfort zone. And this is where we go into investing in yourself. And one of the things that we need to be able to look at is, what are the skills for developing self-mastery? And this is where we talked about it before. What, ladies and gentlemen, did I say is the most important leadership characteristic that you can have? And when I say leadership, we define leadership as influence. Leadership is a verb. It's not a noun. It's not a position. It's not achievements. It's a verb. We have to be able to show our leadership every day. If we can influence people, we can lead people. Now, self-awareness. I love self-awareness because this is where the growing will start. Self-awareness is all about the ability to see yourself clearly, to see yourself objectively, and that's going to be through your own reflection and your own introspection. One of the things that I will challenge you on is I want you to find a place that you love to be. Maybe it's your favorite chair. Maybe it's looking out your favorite window. Maybe it's at the beach, wherever your favorite place is. And I want you to be able to give yourself the gift of every so often going to that place and thinking about who you are, where you are in your career, what makes you happy, what challenges you, what makes you sad, what gives you anxiety. And you have to be able to wrestle with those fears, wrestle with those emotions. You have to be able to wrestle with those things that will allow you to grow. Self-awareness is the ability to see yourself, and I'm going to say it again, to see yourself clearly, objectively, through introspection and reflection. One of the things that have helped me to do this, and I got to tell you, I went kicking and screaming into journaling. I talked about journaling, I read about journaling, and I knew that it was an important component of growth, and I fought it for a decade. So for about 15 years now, I have been journaling every day. So at the end of my day, I start off with a grade. I grade myself on how the day went on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best day that I've ever had, 1, it's something to be desired. And then I start off with the high points of the day. Why was the day that rating? What did I learn today? What do I need to focus on today? And I have about 5 or 6 books. Now, I was looking where my book is. I was going to show you. But I have about 5 or 6 books over 15 years that now allows me the opportunity to go back and read and see where I was in the past and see how I've grown in the past. And a lot of times, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I get my ideas for articles. And this is where I get my ideas for books to say, you know, I was actually getting ready to do a lecture. And I went back to one of my books it was probably about 2010. And it gave me the idea for a new lecture. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but come back next year and I will give you that lecture. Brian, write that down. I'm going to come back next year, give that lecture, and you guys will know that we were talking about this today. Everybody has a fundamental idea of what self-awareness is, right? Everybody has their own definition. Anytime I ask you to talk about a process, I want to know what your definition of that word is. Right? So self-awareness. What is your definition of self-awareness? Because this is the foundation of where it grows from. And what we now need to think about is how we change our own definition of the word self-awareness. We don't know exactly where that definition is coming from, but it's based on our experiences. It's based on our beliefs. It's based on our morals. It's based on the people that are around us. We have to remember that self-awareness comes in and it gives us the potential to answer the questions of why. Why do we act this way? Why do we react this way? Why do we take this path that we take? And again, a lot of times it's going to be based on living inside of your comfort zone. And I hope this is resonating with everyone. So there's a great book out there that was written in the 20s, 1925, by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. And this is a book that really transpires, or let me tell you, Napoleon Hill met Henry Ford. And Henry Ford said to him, I want to give you a task. Hang on a second. I'm going to pause a second. It wasn't Henry Ford. I apologize. It was Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie gave a task to Napoleon Hill and said, I want you to write a book on how people get rich. We're in the throes of the Depression now. And Napoleon Hill has no money, but he has this friend in Andrew Carnegie. And he says, I want to give you the assignment of writing a book. And Andrew Carnegie introduced Napoleon Hill to all of his wealthy friends, Henry Ford, Rockefeller, all those people. And for 10 years, he went and studied and worked with all these people and finally wrote the book, Think and Grow Rich. If you've not read it, it's a little bit hard read, but it's very, very interesting. And a lot of the leadership practices we talk about today come out of the book, Think and Grow Rich. But one of Napoleon Hill's quotes from that book is, self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. There's another great quote that says, you become what you think about the most. You become what you think about the most. That's going to be important as we get to the end of that lecture and as I give you those tips for how to reprogram your subconscious mind. Triggers to the negative. Why do we get to the negative? It's the why. What makes you mad and why? You know, my daughter's 27 years old. I apologize. And she'll call me and she'll say, Dad, Mom's making me mad. And I'll say, no, Mom's not making you mad. You're allowing what Mom is doing to make you mad. Now, why is she making you mad? Well, because she's looking at my bank account. And I'm like, no. Why do those things make you mad? And she just can't understand it and she just can't get there. But I'm trying to help her. Understand what makes you mad. Understand what makes you sad, stressed, jealous. This is a long way to understanding your emotions and becoming self-aware. When we recognize what sparks your negative emotion, you can become more selective of people. You can become more selective of places. Is there one person that knows how to push your buttons? How did that person learn that these things will push your buttons and they say the same things to you all the time because they know that it's going to get under your skin? That's giving power to people that we don't want to give them. We do not want to allow people to have the ability to access our emotional state that makes us angry, that makes us cry, that makes us worry, that gives us anxiety, right? It could be people, it could be places, it could be situations. We need to be able to control those. No one should have the power over us to give us those negative feelings that we don't deserve. It also helps you to become more conscious of who you are, of how you are, and how you respond to the environment, and how you respond to the situations, and things that you think that you can control. Think about that. There are things that you think you can't control. And there's only things that we control that are inside our sphere of a circle. We can control our beliefs. We can control our thoughts. We can control our emotions. I can't control what Janie is doing, and she's showing up late every day, and no one is saying anything about it. That's beyond my control. Why do I even care about that? If she's getting away with it, let her get away with it. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to be dedicated. I'm going to be committed. I'm going to show up to work every day on time. And I'm going to deliver the highest quality of work that I can and the highest quality of care to my patients that I can because I control that. You can tell I'm a little bit passionate about that. I don't know. I may need to relax. My blood pressure may be up. I may need to take a step back. All right. I want to give you some benefits of self-awareness. Again, I love this topic. I love self-awareness. And I have tried to become a student of my own self-awareness. And I've tried to be able now to give this gift to people. And it's really an honor to be here with you today and to share this with you, right? And hopefully that if I can give you just a little bit of gift, a little bit of value, and this helps. They say that knowledge is power. You ever hear that knowledge is power? I'm going to tell you that it's not if you don't use the knowledge. So I want you to take something from this lecture, and hopefully what we're going to do here together will give you a little bit of boost, will give you a little bit of inspiration, will give you a little bit of motivation to do something different, to get something we've never gotten. We've got to do something we've never done. 4 benefits of self-awareness. Number 1 is it'll make us more proactive. It'll boost our acceptance and our acceptance with ourselves. The first thing that we have to be able to do is we have to like who we are as a person. If we're starting off at a position where we don't like who we are, it's like pushing a bicycle up a hill with a rope. We need to be able now to think about who we are as a person. We need to be able to accept ourselves. We need to be able to encourage ourselves. And we need to be able to ensure that we have positive self-development. Why are you here today? Sure, it's support of the organization, but this is all about knowledge. This is all about ability. This is all about skill development. And you have to be able to challenge yourself into the point of saying, I want to be better than where I am today. You may be in a great place today, but are you happy where you are? And is this where you want to stay? Some people will want to stay where they are. But you know what? Maslow tells us that we need to get to the point of self-actualization and being the best version of ourselves that we can. We need to be able to see things from others' perspective. In this political environment, and I had the opportunity to travel to Europe a couple months ago, and I was sitting with somebody on the plane on the way home, and they were asking me about the American political process. And I was like, I do not want to get into this discussion. But one of the things they were talking about was, what is our belief when it comes to the leaders that we have in our country? And I didn't know how to answer it, and it took me a minute. And I actually said, give me a minute to think about that, because that's an amazing question. One of the things that we've gotten to in our society, regardless of what side of the aisle that you represent, is we don't want to listen to other people's perspectives anymore. My job here, when I share my thoughts with you, isn't to influence you about my political beliefs. It's just to share what I think. And we've gotten to a point in our society where we can't even talk about those things without getting defensive. And I don't understand that. But what we have to be able to do is see things from other people's perspectives. And that doesn't mean we have to believe it. That doesn't mean that we have to walk that walk. But I respect your decisions. I respect your opinions. But we have to be able, from a self-awareness standpoint, we have to be able to see things from others' perspectives. We have to be able to practice self-control. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in. And there are 5 components of emotional intelligence. I won't bore you with what they are, but go ahead and go to Dr. Google and he'll kind of outline, or he or she, I don't know if Google's a male or female, but whatever it is you believe, and look up the components of emotional intelligence. The first thing that you're going to read, the number 1 component of emotional intelligence, would I surprise you when you read self-awareness? Okay, next, it helps to make better decisions. So when you're in a position that you're now able to be self-aware, do you make the same decisions that you make today? The answer is going to be no. Because it's going to allow you to be more decisive. It's going to allow you to be more comfortable with your decisions. It's going to allow you to stand behind the decisions you make. Now, even if you make a decision, people may challenge that decision, and you may find out later that that decision was incorrect, and you may need to change your decision. Is that bad, ladies and gentlemen? Do you subscribe to the same knowledge today that you did 5 years ago? Have you changed some of your practice and beliefs over the years? I have. I have grown. I remember back in the old days, growing up in New York City at 20 years old, I thought I had the answers to change the world. I don't know that I had the answers to change my own socks. So that was a joke, by the way. I knew how to change my socks. And we need to be able to make ourselves better at our jobs, make ourselves better in our professions. This is our reputation. We have to, if we could all lay on a beach somewhere with our big 120-foot yacht out in the bay, drinking drinks with little umbrellas in it with our feet up, wouldn't we rather do that? Or whatever it is that your dream of being able to retire early is? But we have to be able to work. We have to be able to feed our family. We have to be able to put clothes on our kids. We have to be able to put a roof over their head. But we want to be able to be in the best position that we can to do that. And we work to make that happen. And we've got to be able to be the best at who we are when that happens. All right. 5 tips for developing self-awareness. Number 1, we talked about reflection and introspection. We've got to be able to be at a place where we can connect with ourselves daily. Maybe that's journaling, maybe it's your drive home, and maybe that's the only time you have for yourself is when you're driving home or driving to work. Use that time constructively. Listen to a personal professional development podcast, or think about who you are as a person, or why you got upset this morning, whatever it is. Number 2, practice mindfulness. Mindfulness refers to being present in the moment and paying your attention to yourself and your surroundings. When you think about emotional intelligence, you have no choice but to feel the emotion. You'll feel angry, you'll feel sad, you'll feel afraid, you'll feel happy because of the fight or flight response. We will feel the emotion first before it gets to the frontal lobe where logic and reasoning happen. Now we can say, oh my God, it's that person again and they're making me mad. It doesn't take the emotion away, but you're now able to make sense of it. We talked about journaling. I got to tell you, just give it a shot. Give me 30 days. Give me 30 days of writing down your thoughts and just see if it does anything different for you. If it doesn't do anything different for you, it doesn't. But give it a shot, man. What do you got to lose? 30 days. Practice listening. More importantly, observe emotions and body language. You know, they used to say that we had to listen to what our employees are saying. I'm going to tell you to stop listening to what employees are saying. And instead, I want you to listen to what your employees are feeling. If you can understand their feelings, you will understand their words. Pay attention to emotion. Pay attention to body language. The eyes never lie. I can smile, but I'm looking like I want to put you in a burlap sack and throw you off a bridge, right? So observe emotions, observe body language. I've never thrown anybody in a burlap sack over a bridge, by the way. And don't judge or evaluate people. In EMS, we have a habit of being judgmental. We got to stop it. There is a law called the law of the excluded middle. When we label people, the law of the excluded middle tells us people are or aren't that label. There's no in the middle. So if we say that somebody's toxic, they either are toxic or they aren't toxic. If we say that people are a cancer, they either are a cancer or they aren't a cancer. We've now labeled them and there's no middle. They either are or they aren't. We have to stop judging people. We have to stop labeling people. We have to stop evaluating people and accept them for who they are. Number 5, ask for perspective. You know, one of my great joys is coaching people. And people will come to me and they will ask me to help them become better and become the best version of themselves. And I think speaking in front of people is an honor. When Brian called me and said, will you do this? I was like, oh my God, of course I will. I mean, who the heck am I that, you know, people want to hear what I have to say, right? What a great honor. But it gets a little bit more deeper when people come to you and say, I want you to coach me to get to the next level of where I am. And being able to have that relationship with people, but get different perspectives. Find a mentor, find a coach, find somebody that you trust who will be honest with you and shoot you straight. How many times do you give people advice that is contrary to what you really believe about them? Is that really what's for the best of them? Well, I know if I'm honest, it's going to make them cry. It's going to hurt their feelings. Well, then they shouldn't have asked. Again, that's one of my weaknesses, is being brutally honest with people. After self-awareness, we have to be able to think about adaptability. Adaptability is all about the opportunity to see change and to make change happen. And one of the things that we can be certain of is that change will happen. And adaptability is all about, and this is a crucial, adaptability is all about your ability to see change, to predict change. I just did a class at EMS Expo in Vegas, and I think that's where the whole COVID thing came from. I shouldn't have licked those doorknobs as I was going back to my room, because I think that's where the COVID came from. But one of the things that I talked about is that EMS is reactionary, right? We wait for things. We wait for money. We wait for CMS. We wait for reimbursement. We wait for calls. We wait for the sirens to go off. We now have to be able to be anticipatory. We know where we need to be in our career field, and we need to be able to bring ourselves forward. Adaptability refers to how easy you, your business, in your personal life, your professional life can adjust to change. And we have to be able to accept it. The way that we do things today is not the way we're going to do things tomorrow. Change is the only certainty we have in life. The importance of adaptability, 3 of them. It motivates and inspires staff. Sometimes it makes them uncomfortable. I read research at a Stanford University that says employees don't like change because they're not comfortable with their leader who's going to get them through the change. Think about that. We need to be able to work across cultures and generations. I got to tell you, man, working in the generations is crazy now, right? I'm becoming the baby boomers now as a Gen Xer, right? I'm becoming the old guy in the workforce now. But we got millennials, and we got Zs, and we got the TikTok cultures, and we have to be able to find ways to motivate them. We have to be able to help them become adaptable. We have to be able to let them know that this is the way things are going to be. All right. Developing adaptability. We have to be able to redefine our motivations. We have to be able to accept the fact that we don't want things to be the way they are today. We have to be able to think about that. How do we want our departments? How do we want our organizations? How do we want our projects? How do we want our processes to change? Why do we do it that way? What's the number one answer that we hear all the time? Say it with me. I hope you said it with me. I can't hear you. That's the way we've always done it, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. No. We need to be able to challenge our processes. And we need to be able to make sure that change is going to be happening. Don't be afraid of it. We change all the time. Next is we need to be able to positive the negative. We're going to talk about killing self-sabotage in the next slide. When we catch ourselves shooting down our ideas, we have to challenge them with a positive. We need to be able to improve ourselves. One of the things that I want you to ask yourself, when you have a negative pop into your mind, is this a fact or is this conjecture? Is this what you think or is this what you know? Challenge yourself with that. Number 2, next one is killing self-sabotage. Have you been the victim of your own self-sabotage? Have you wanted to do something and you've scared yourself out of it to say that I'm not going to do it because that negative self-talk? What is self-sabotage? This is the act of destroying or undermining something, often in a covert manner. And this could be procrastination. This could be, I'm going to sleep today. I'm not going to go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to stay in bed. Oh, it's raining out. I'm not going to go for my walk. The term self-sabotage is used when destructive behavior is directed at yourself. Have you ever been in that position? Ladies and gentlemen, I've been in that position. I've shot myself in the foot. I can't count the number of times. Some of the signs of self-sabotage: we forget a deadline. Do we really forget a deadline? We prepare to fail. I'm going to try to do my best. Try is an excuse to fail. Well, I told you I was going to try. I know I didn't do it great, but we need to stop that. People who come late to work, procrastinate, negative self-talk. And the culprit of this is your lack of self-esteem, is your lack of self-confidence. Self-esteem is what you think about yourself. Self-confidence comes into the point of what people think about you or what you think people think about you. And one of the keys, and one of the key reasons, rather, to self-sabotage is that lack of self-esteem. And this could be a lot of different causes. It could be feelings of worthlessness. It could be that you don't feel like you're a success. It could be even self-hatred. I was dealing with a person when I was coaching about 5 or 6 years ago that they would cut themselves. And we had to be, there was nothing I could do to help them, and I had to refer them to a psychologist because I was really trying to work with their self-esteem, but their challenges were so deeply rooted that inspiration and motivation wasn't going to help them. If you worry about failure, if you're worried about what your family or friends are going to think about you, if you worry about if you're successful, if you worry that your coworkers are jealous, forget those coworkers who you think are jealous. If they're stabbing you in the back, they're behind you for a reason, and keep marching forward. How self-sabotage damages you, it reinforces the negative behavior. We need to make sure that we get past there. It gives you passive-aggressive attitudes. I want to talk about passive-aggressive attitudes because I did a podcast with a psychologist a few years ago, a friend of mine, Denise Dudley, and she says that passive-aggressive attitudes don't exist. It really is just aggressive attitude. So that was really interesting. It makes you more angry. It makes you gives you less self-esteem, but it also damages relationship. Is there that one friend that you have or that one colleague that you have that's always negative? That, I had a friend of mine who was negative about everything, and he had no friends. Every friend that got close to him would leave him because of his negativity, and I tried to hang on to him as long as I could until he finally pushed me away. I mean, some people are just destined for self-sabotage, self-behavior. Defeating self-sabotage, understand your emotions. Understand who you are. Work with the anxiety, work with the anger, work with the feeling of worthlessness. Now, I'm going to tell you that this is all about how we see ourselves. And I talked about earlier in this lecture, and I'm so excited to give this to you. And you may have paid good attention to this lecture, but I am going to ask for your undivided attention over the next few slides. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to share with you the powerhouse of performance. And I am going to talk about why we do the things that we do. That if you follow it, I promise you, you will see a change in your life. Never finish a negative statement, reverse it immediately, and wonders will happen in your life. This is Joseph Murphy. He is the author of The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. In the 1920s, there was a doctor named Thurman Fleet. And Dr. Fleet was a chiropractor in San Antonio, Texas. And he is going to be known as the father of cognitive behavioral therapy. And one of the things that he noticed was his patients weren't getting better. They started to get better, but then he found that they were working against themselves and they were staying sick. A lot of the back pain that people had, he noted, wasn't really related to the fact that they were having back issues. It was more of a psychological issue that was causing the pain. A psychological issue that was causing the pain. So he was trying to get people to see their mind, and people couldn't understand his concept. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Thurman Fleet's stick figure. We are wired to think in pictures, and in the absence of a picture, we don't know what we're looking at. The stick person is a diagram created by Thurman Fleet in 1934. It gives us the answer to the question, what does our mind look like? Ladies and gentlemen, I never want you to forget these pictures as we go forward. It creates clarity when we consider how the mind works and advise us a visual representation of the mind and how we are constantly fighting ourselves. Okay, here we go. The mind is broken up into two portions that we know of. One is the subconscious mind. The conscious mind. In the conscious mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is our cognitive intelligence. This is our IQ. What's the capital of Iowa? That's cognitive. It gives us our reasoning. Okay, if I hit snooze 2 more times and I don't wash my hair, I can still get to work on time. This is the mind that we think with. Okay, so I have this problem. I need to come up with a creative solution. How do I do it? Conscious mind. This is also our current level of awareness. We know exactly where we are in our life today as people. Maybe you're happy in your life. Maybe you're sad in your life. Maybe you're bored in your life. You know exactly where you are in your life. And this is also our free will. We get to do anything that we choose to do that we want to do. Now, here's what's bad about this, or good about the subconscious or the conscious mind. I apologize. It allows us to accept, reject, or disregard any idea. I'm going to sit here and tell you that the sky is green. Your conscious mind will disregard that idea because you know that the sky is blue. So your conscious mind gives you the ability to accept an idea, to reject an idea, or to disregard any idea. Now, what's interesting about the subconscious or the conscious mind, I don't know why I'm happy to get the subconscious, but the conscious mind is Bruce Lipton, who is the foremost biologist in our time, who's got a lot of great books, tells us that your conscious mind can interpret 40 bits of information per second. 40 bits of information per second. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? But our conscious mind allows us to take all this stimuli, 40 bits of information a second, and figure out all these things about reasoning and thinking and free will and, cognitive intelligence. But there's also the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is all about the area that we feel our life. We react to life. This is where our self-image lives. This is where what we think about ourselves lives. It's our emotional intelligence lives here. Our spiritual intelligence lives here. It's also the part that runs the processes. Right now, I want somebody to tell me, how do they make their lungs fill with air? I want you're moving the diaphragm down. You're increasing the inner thoracic pressure. Air is rushing into your lungs. We don't breathe the air in. Air just rushes in when we increase the thoracic pressure. But I want someone to explain to me how that happens. We don't know, right? Your subconscious mind runs the processes. I want someone to explain to me how the veins get bigger to allow more blood to get back to the heart so we can reoxygenate that blood. Can someone explain that to me? Well, I think we know in theory, but can someone make that happen right now? That happens in our subconscious mind. I want to take this a bit further. When you were 16 years old, 15, 14, 15, 16 years old, and you got behind the wheel of a car, and now you had a steering wheel, and now you had a gear shifter, maybe you had a stick on the floor, and 3 pedals, and 2 feet, and mirrors, and blinkers, and speedometers, as excited as you were to learn how to drive, you probably realized in that moment that you were consciously incompetent in driving that car. I will guess today, ladies and gentlemen, that you drove to this conference and you didn't even think about driving. Have you ever been on the road and You were supposed to get off at this exit and you missed it because you weren't even focused on driving? Why did that happen? Because of thousands and thousands of hours of driving, it has become second nature, and your subconscious mind has taken over to run this process for you. Do you even think about putting the key in your door when you go home? Or does it just happen? Do we think about taking the key out, find the right key, stick it in the hole, turn it to the right? We don't think about it because through thousands and thousands of hours, it's created, our subconscious mind has made life easy for us. If we talk about the conscious mind, and we know that the conscious mind can interpret 40 bits of information a second. I thought that was a lot, right? Bruce Lipton will tell us that the subconscious mind can interpret 40 million bits of data per second. 40 million. And this is processed. This is thought. Your subconscious mind wants to make life easy for you. Here is the bad thing about the subconscious mind. It will only accept the ideas that you give it. If you believe something is truth, your subconscious mind accepts it as truth. I'm a failure. I'll never be rich. I'll never lose weight. I'll never quit smoking. I'm a horrible parent. I'm a horrible spouse. And the more and more that we say those things, the more and more it gets printed on our subconscious mind as truth. Every thought your conscious mind chooses to accept, your subconscious mind has to accept it as truth. All the negative self-talk that you hear in your mind is coming from your subconscious mind. All the negative self-talk that you hear is coming from your subconscious mind, only telling you what you've programmed it to tell you. The only thing that your subconscious mind controls is your body. Your subconscious mind puts your body into action. We have a negative idea or belief. I'm never going to lose weight. I'm never going to quit smoking. I'm a failure. I'm always going to be overweight. This creates feelings of truth. It puts our body into action. It puts our body into action, ladies and gentlemen, to make the truth a reality. Have you ever known people who are trying to quit smoking and they got a cigarette in their mouth and you're like, I thought you were quitting. They're like, oh my God, I didn't even know I picked it up. Why? Because the habit is to make that happen. It puts your body into action. Now, those actions or behaviors will cause negative thoughts. Oh my God, I'm never going to quit smoking. Now, that creates that negative thought and starts this cycle all over again. Your subconscious mind doesn't know that it's hurting us. It's only doing what you've programmed it to do. Remember I said earlier, you become what you think about the most. I'm a failure. I'll never be successful. I'll never be rich. And the whole purpose in the book, Think and Grow Rich, was if you think about becoming rich, if you think about the money you want to make, if you think about yourself already owning that piece of money, you will make that happen. It's the premise of Think and Grow Rich. But we do this to ourselves. We have a negative belief. We creates a negative feeling. I'll never be, I'll never. But this also works the other way too. And this is why I tell you, I want you to challenge this process of any time you have a negative thought. Because I usually teach this class alone in an hour and a half. Sometimes I could put it into a 4-hour mastermind class. I'm giving this to you in 15 minutes. What I want you to do is this. If you take anything from this lecture, this is the prescription right here. Okay? I want you to choose your thoughts. Your thoughts will create feelings. And if you have a negative thought, I want you to ask yourself, is it fact or is it conjecture? I want you to challenge it because those thoughts will create feelings. Those feelings create behaviors. Those behaviors create habits, and those habits will create performance. This will define you in your life. You need to be able to understand and control this component of reprogramming your subconscious mind. And ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, you will see a change. Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to pass out from all the excitement. Lastly, I want to give you this slide. I love this slide. This slide is all about your subconscious mind. It records everything. It's always awake. It's always alert. It controls 95% of our lives. It's all about habit. It speaks to you in your dreams. I had a great dream last night. It was my subconscious mind taking me down that road. It has no verbal language. We create the words for our subconscious mind. It can do 1 trillion things at once. It's not logical, and it is 1 million times more powerful than the conscious mind. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great honor for me, and this is my show. This is my performance. I hope you learned a little bit about the subconscious mind. I hope you learned a little bit about self-mastery and becoming the best version of yourself. This is one of my most favorite lectures. I love to teach this lecture, and hopefully it gives you the opportunity to kind of see yourself differently and to develop a plan that will allow you now to get to the point of becoming the best version of yourself and self-actualization. I want to thank you very much. I know I got a couple classes later. I look forward to being with you there. And hopefully I've added a little bit of value to your day. So I want to thank you so much for allowing me to come and be part of your professional development journey. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.